Good evening, you're watching us live from the Gambia Radio and Television Services. This is GRTS NewsFile. Coming up in the headlines, the Minister of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment renews government's commitment to address the challenges of the labor force.
The Secretary General of the Gambia Trade Union Congress calls on workers to renew their adherence to the principles and practices of work standard. The Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Tourism and Culture, presides over the signing ceremony for the rehabilitation work of the Mungo Park Memorial Obelisk in the Central River region.
In the internationals, the United Nations seek to broker civilian evacuation from ruins of Mariupol, while Russia continues offensive.
And elsewhere around the world, Operation Dudula fuels anti-immigrant settlement in South Africa. Well, these plus other stories coming ahead in this edition of the News File. I am Fatima Cham, with me is
Winifred Nicole. Do stay with us.
This is the News File coming to you live from our main studios in Banjul. We begin this bulletin with the statement of the Ministry of Trade and Employment in commemoration of Workers' Day tomorrow. The Minister of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment has renewed government's commitment to allocate resources for human capital formation to enable the availability of a healthy and skilled labor force to our industries. Mr. Sidi Keita made the remarks during his speech in commemoration of Workers' Day tomorrow. He said the government has approved the National Employment Policy and Action Plan 2022 to 2026, as well established a job center and the Department of Labor in Fajara, KMC and Basse in the Upper River region to enhance employability and employment of labor both in the formal and informal sectors of the economy. Well, here is an excerpt.
Gambia is aware of the challenges confronting the labor force and has been seeking out strategies to address them accordingly. In order to better protect the rights of workers and ensure that there is a level playing field for sound and industrial relation employment creation, the government has developed policies, strategies, regulations, and labor laws. Key among them is the repeal of the 1990 Injuries Compensation Act, the 1963 Factories Act, and the regulation, and the 2007 Labor Act, and the enactment of new acts in their places. Furthermore, my ministry, through the Department of Labor, has developed regulations on occupational safety and health, which is meant to protect workers from being exposed to occupational related hazards and accidents. In partnership with IMO, my ministry has developed a labor migration strategy, ethical recruitment guidelines for labor migration, and a pre-departure training manual for labor migrants. These are expected to regularize migration routes and provide options to young people who consider the back way the surface with Europe. As part of efforts to ensure the rights of every worker is protected, my ministry, in collaboration with the judiciary of the Gambia, established industrial tribunals across the regions as part of the decentralization strategy. Through this collaboration, panel members for the said tribunals are already selected and trained. This move is meant to bring services of tribunals to the doorstep of every worker in the Gambia and provide machinery for the equitable and peaceful settlements of industrial disputes. It is in this regard that the government of the Gambia continues to advocate for industrial harmony at workplaces and better working conditions of services to enhance better service delivery.
Meanwhile, the Secretary General of the Gambia Trade Union Congress, Ibrahima Gabacham, called on workers to renew and reaffirm their adherence to the principles and practice in accordance with work standard, noting that work environment goes beyond the demands for adequate remuneration and ideal working conditions. Let's take a listen for more on that.
Distinguished workers, as partners in development, this day serves as a forum to make sober reflection of our achievements and challenges in the previous years and to make projections for the future. This, however, demands certain responsibilities, including discipline and hard work. I therefore call on all of you to renew and reaffirm your adherence to the principles and practice in accordance with work standards. We owe it to posterity, and that is what will make the Gambia a better place to live and to work. Distinguished workers' conducive work environment goes beyond the demands for adequate remuneration and ideal working conditions. It requires unity of purpose among and between workers and employers in the protection and promotion of your varied interests. In this direction, workers can be engaged in collective bargaining in the realization of fringe benefits and better terms and conditions of employment. I call on all of you to inculcate the spirit of industrial peace and harmony at the workplace to realize your objectives. Your approach to dialogue as a tool for dispute resolution in the labor market is one of the secrets of our economic success. In this way, the Gambia labor market can be made a center of attraction for foreign investors within the continent.
Well, happy Workers' Day to all workers in the Gambia and around the world. Then moving on now, the Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Tourism and Culture presided over the signing ceremony of the contract for the rehabilitation of the Mungo Park Memorial Obelisk in the Central River region. The project, worth over $4 million, is meant to project and promote cultural and rural tourism in the country. Khadija Tujalo was there and she prepared this report.
It was in 1944 that the Mungo Park obelisk was built and named after a Scottish surgeon, and it remains one of the country's most treasured tourism sites. Director General, National Center for Arts and Culture, Hassan Sise, after revisiting the history of Mungo Park, pointed out the importance of rehabilitating the historical site.
Like a lot of things with this project, one, to protect for posterity the legacy of the famous explorer who is a national hero in Scotland. Number two, to underscore the contribution of the Gambia to the success of international exploration, especially the help offered by to explorers like Mungo Park by local Gambian chiefs and women. Number three, we will be adding value to a major monument, thereby making it more productive in terms of generating revenue. And finally, through this project, we hope to be boosting cultural and rural tourism.
The Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Tourism Ministry, Mamadi Damfa, gave a breakdown of the contract, which is in three components.
The contract is worth $4 million and it involves several components, all of which relate to rehabilitation, conservation, and value adding to the Mungo Park Memorial Obelisk. The first component of the work is to secure the site with a solid perimeter fence so that the obelisk can be protected from intrusion. The second component of the works is the erection of a site chaos museum. The third component is the erecting of a water supply and solar lighting system. In addition, there will be visitor convenience, including benches. According to the contract documents, works will take 3 months to complete.
The renovation of the memorial obelisk, according to DPS Damfa, is in line with government policy to protect and enhance cultural and heritage sites in the country.
The project also falls in line with the provisions of the new Arts and Culture Policy 2018-2027, which seeks to optimize the conservation of heritage sites for inclusive economic development through community-friendly tourism. The monies for this project come from the development budget that the Ministry of Tourism and Culture has received from the National Treasury to improve our heritage sites. So far in the past year, The development budget has enabled NCAC to rehabilitate the Kerbach Stone Circle, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which I will soon officially open at Nyanija in Sierra North. Other improvement works like extension of electricity has been completed at Jufre Alberta sites, Kankurang site at Makati Sierra South, and Fort Bullen in Bara, thanks to the development budget.
The National Council for Arts and Culture is tasked to closely monitor the 3 months project, which is contracted to Turekunda Construction Company to ensure quality and timely delivery. Signing the document, the contractor assures the timely completion of the renovation works. When completed, it is expected to give the Mongo Park Memorial Obelisk a new facelift that will attract more visitors. Khadijatu Jallow, reporting for GRTS News.
The Insurance Association of the Gambia has condemned comments made by the president of the General Transport Union, describing insurance companies in the Gambia as scammers. Speaking at a press briefing, the president of the Gambia Insurance Association, Makaria Bajan, said the core mandate of insurance companies is to provide compensation to its policyholders. Kejetu Juwara has more on that.
The Insurance Association of the Gambia on Tuesday refuted comments it said were made by the president of the General Transport Union that insurance companies in the Gambia are scammers. Speaking at a press briefing, the president of the Insurance Association of the Gambia said the core mandate of all insurance companies is to provide compensation to its policyholders in the event of a loss caused by a risk which the policyholder has insured against and or to compensate third parties.
We are all aware that of recent we have unfortunately seen officials of the Gambia General Transport Union on media, social media, print, TV, actually calling the insurance industry names and particularly labeling us as scammers, which is very unfortunate. The Insurance Association of the Gambia condemns in the strongest possible terms the recent derogatory statements made by the president of the General Transport Union, Mr. Omar Sise, and other officials of the GTU labeling us as scammers. Whilst this statement illustrates utter ignorance of the operation of insurance companies by Mr. Sise and his colleagues, its intent is to misinform and misguide the unsuspecting public on the true purpose of insurance. All insurance companies operating in the Gambia are not only registered and licensed by the Central Bank of the Gambia, who regulates all affairs of insurance companies, but equally, all insurance companies are registered in accordance with the Companies Act of the Gambia.
Mr. Bajan assured the public that all legitimate claims will be processed quickly. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Khadija Tujuara.
While moving on, a chat with small businesses in the Gambia unveils new initiatives undertaken by young entrepreneurs that are devising innovative ways of penetrating the sub-regional market. With commitments to expand the local product, young entrepreneurs called on locals to embrace the new phenomenon. Fatu Elika Mulushi has more on that in the special report.
Herbs are generally good and contain health benefits. Drinking, especially herbal tea, helps in relaxation, pain reduction, and the improvement of body systems such as digestive and the immune systems. The beverages are made from the infusion of herbs or other plant materials containing no chemical substance. The Gambia's first herbal tea factory is in the making. Yahari, which is the Sarahule word for a girl, is a herbal tea business established by a young lady, Fatoumata Njai, who uses raw materials entirely made in the Gambia, processed and packaged in tea bags that can easily be dipped in hot water to release nutrients that one can consume for satisfaction and health benefits.
Yeah, what we do, we process herbs. We work with women farmers in the provinces. What they do is grow these herbs and then we buy it from them in bulk. We have our processing center, our factory, where we process these teas. Yeah, basically we work with women farmers and then we work with young girls and men in our factory as well.
The young company produces various blends ranging from female tea that helps in women's health, ginger, mbor, wonjo, moringa, lemongrass, amongst other varieties. Young as it is, Fatimata's business draws inspiration from nature's gift that will go untapped if not properly utilized. This, however, does not stop such local businesses from facing insufficient sales due to lack of confidence from the community.
I was trying to grow, trying to showcase these products, trying to show people what I am doing. It was challenging, I can say. You know, these are products that have been grown and made in the Gambia, and then trying to change people's mindset to buy these herbs instead of the black teas, it wasn't really easy. But I would say, alhamdulillah, now people are accepting the products. We are supplying the supermarkets and some hotels.
Despite using nature-based ingredients entirely produced in the Gambia, Fatimata gets her packaging products imported from elsewhere. This causes fluctuation in the prices of her products due to uncertainties in the international market, especially affecting the supply chain.
We should focus more on producing our own products or work on buying our own homemade products. So I think this going back to the land, as they say, going back to what we grow will help ease all these problems that we are facing.
A lot of young people like Fatoumata have the ambition to redefine the country's economic landscape, transforming it from an import-based market to a mixture of both heavy exports and few imports. Noppaljeg, meaning lifting the burden of women, deals in processing local grains into semi-cooked and stored products that can easily be prepared into finished form in just a few minutes. The idea is to make cooking easier for especially career women who may not necessarily have the time for the entire preparation process.
It's food. So the food business, people have to eat. It's just knowing who you're selling to and giving them what they want. So yes, so definitely the food business is booming.
The common ordeal that these businesses share is lack of exposure beyond the social media. For Binta Khan, a little bit of effort from both locals and government could go a long way.
When we produce our local products, we don't need certain importation of certain cereals in the Gambia. We already have them here. What we have to do is just to put it in the minds and let government help us put it in the minds of the people that Gambia, our young entrepreneurs are coming up and they are doing this.
And as works intensify to boost local production in its various forms for a rapid socio-economic change, Yahare will soon open its new outlet that will house every type of machine necessary in the production of these herbal teas. But also to bridge the unemployment gap and begin massive infiltration of the sub-regional market.
What I will advise people is to start consuming Gambian products, to consume what we make here. This will help us, the entrepreneurs, and it will help also with these price issues and all of these that we are facing in the Gambia. So we are hoping that we will get our teas in the government as well. We have registered with Gambia Procurement Office, so we are working on writing a letter to the government officials. We want them to consume these teas that we are making. We want all the government sectors to be having these local products that we are making. Let them start consuming and start wearing all these things that we are making in the Gambia.
With some of these new businesses taking shape, the Gambia might just have to brace up for a major takeover by SMEs, which form 90% of the economy, according to a World Bank Doing Business report that ranks the Gambia 146 out of 190 assessed countries. Needless to say, this calls for combined efforts, which might just be an extra mile in resuscitating the state of the economy. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Fatu Elika Mloshi.
of Fatoumata, great initiatives there by young Gambian entrepreneurs.
Indeed, the mantra support Gambian businesses.
Of course, yes. Now moving on, officials of the Resilience of Organizations for Transformation Smallholder Agriculture Routes, in collaboration with the Regional Director of Livestock Services in LRR, on Friday distributed small ruminants and materials to 3 project beneficiaries in the Lower River region. The project, supported by the Rural Poor Stimulus Facility and IFAD grant, aims at strengthening the resilience of smallholder farmers amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Usman Balde has the rest of that story.
Stimulus facilities support include provision of rice and vegetable seeds, support to livestock owners, funding to SMEs in rice and horticulture value chains, provision of sanitizing materials, face masks, COVID-19 awareness, radio outreach, among other vital support to Gambians. These beneficiaries were selected through the Regional Directorate of Livestock, looking through their vulnerabilities as well as how they were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic.
This set of materials includes animals. That is, each beneficiary will be receiving a male and 2 females of each type, be it goats or sheep. That is for the small ruminants. And for the poultry, we had already done the distribution last week, in which each of the beneficiaries received 100-day-old chicks with their feed, drinkers, and vaccines. Just like for the small ruminants today, who will be receiving also animals, feed, vaccines, and feeders. So each of these beneficiaries will be receiving a set of these materials. This is meant to boost their production amidst the COVID-19 pandemic.
For his part, the Regional Livestock Director for Lower River Region, Madu Kamara, explained the donated materials will massively enhance livestock production and productivity in the country.
The second leg of their support in terms of livestock, poultry, small ruminants, and also feed and drinkers, feeders, tax. They have antibiotic, they have multivitamin, needle and syringes, they have OTC spray, they have mineral leak or mineral block, and other items like pour-on for ticks and lice. So I think this will go a long way in improving the production and productivity of these poultry farmers and livestock farmers, and it will also boost their production.
Beneficiaries Al Samba Bari of Dongoroba village in Jara East and Fatou Jallo of Seno Bajonki in Jara West both hailed the initiative and promised to make best use of their support.
Dum nafal kam mina family am sabu wada sutura te aduna ko jida ko sutura han woni hemu kala ko tampuda sibbo ma heba hemu sutura.
The materials presented to these project beneficiaries includes feeding barrels, groundnut hay, and mineral, while according to project's official, the remaining item including ships will be handed to these project beneficiaries after the quarter. Usman Balde, GRTS.
This is the news file, and it's coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. We'll take a short break. The news continues in just a moment. Do stay.
There's a new update from your favorite GSM operator, AfriCell.
For all of you that have struggled to buy cash power beyond $7,000, AfriCell has done it again. The limit to buy cash power is now up to $30,000. Oh yes, $30,000.
Buy all the cash power you want from your AfriMoney account by dialing *777#.
Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow.
With an amazing offer, AfriMoney just got way better. The threshold for cash in and cash out on your AfriMoney has been increased.
Where it used to be 10,000 per transaction, now it has been increased to 30,000. Meaning, your AfriMoney account, you can now withdraw and deposit up to $30,000 at once.
Cashing in and out just got 3 times easier. For more info, call 777.
Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Welcome back. This is the News File, and it's coming to you live over our main studios in Banjul. I am Fatoumata Cham. With me is Winifred Nicole. Over now to the internationals. The United Nations has sought to broker an evacuation of civilians from the ruins of Mariupol, where the mayor said the situation inside the steel plant that has become the southern port city's last stronghold is dire. Ukrainian forces fought to hold off Russian advances in the south and east, and Russia continued to shell Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine. We have more in this France 24 report.
Dazed, exhausted, but grateful to be alive. These evacuees have just arrived in the city of Kharkiv after fleeing violence in the nearby village of Ruska Losova. Ruska Losova had been in Russia's hands since March, but Ukrainian forces claim they have now recaptured the village. The fighting has caused many of its residents to escape.
We were hiding in the basement. It was horrific. The basement was shaking from the explosions. We were crying and we were praying to God.
The evacuees may have left, but the horrors of war still ring out around them. Reclaiming the village of Ruska Losova is part of a push by Ukrainian soldiers to drive Putin's forces out of Kharkiv. President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed the alleged recapture as a victory for his troops.
The situation in the Kharkiv region is difficult, but our troops and our intelligence have had important tactical success.
The scars of weeks of fighting are everywhere in Kharkiv, which is located just 32 kilometers away from the Russian border. Ukraine's second city has been gripped by constant shelling. Before the war, Kharkiv had a population of around 1.4 million people. More than half of them have left.
Well, South Africa is seeing another wave of anti-immigrant protests. They are mainly targeting foreigners from neighboring countries who came to South Africa without papers. The protests are driven by a new movement called Operation Dudula. Dudula means forced out in the Zulu language, and it is creating fear amongst immigrants in the country.
Quite unfortunate incidents there in South Africa. And over now to Mali, where its military junta has been engaged in a war of words with France over alleged violations of its airspace after France released video footage that it says shows Russian mercenaries burying corpses after a massacre in the village of Moura in central Mali. The previously cordial relationship between France and Mali has gone sour in recent years. France and other European security partners have been helping stabilize the West African nation and fight jihadists. But now Mali has asked them to leave and is turning more than it has done in the past to Russia for help. We have more in this report.
This is tricolor. Mali now wants to address its security challenges on its own terms. French troops dismantled their base at Gossi as part of a staggered pullout after nearly 1 decade in Mali. With France's popularity plunging in recent years, many are happy to see French troops leave for good, even though jihadist attacks continue in the region. In hunting down Islamic extremists, Mali's army has been accused of carrying out abuses against civilians. And now the decision of the military junta to work with the private and controversial Russian military contractor, the Wagner Group, is stirring trouble internationally. France released video footage that it says shows Russian mercenaries burying corpses after a massacre in the village of Moura in central Mali. France says it published the video to defend itself from Russian disinformation. Mali's army, in turn, accuses France of violating Malian airspace to capture the images.
Faced with this umpteenth provocation by the French forces, who were ordered to leave Mali after February 18th, the government of the Republic of Mali, while taking international opinion into account, condemns this attitude of the French authorities and urges them to respect the sovereignty of Mali.
With the French now leaving and Malians taking over the driving seat and building new alliances, the road to stability for Mali has yet to be paved.
Well, viewers, that brings us to the end of this bulletin. But before we take leave of you, a quick recap of our top stories once again. The Minister of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment has renewed government's commitment to address the challenges of the labor force.
And the Secretary General of the Gambia Trade Union Congress has called on workers to renew their adherence to the principles and practices of work standards. The Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Tourism and Culture, recently presided over the signing ceremony of the contract for the rehabilitation of the Mungo Park Memorial Obelisk in the Central River region.
Well, in the internationals, the United Nations seek to broker civilian evacuation from ruins of Mariupol while Russia continues offensive.
Elsewhere around the world.
That's all we had time for in this edition of the NewsFile. Many thanks for watching. That's it from Fatimata Cham. But do join me at 2200 hours for more news. Until then, good night.
Stay.